The UnPodcast is brought to you by Emma. Get more from your email marketing.
In a world where QR codes kill kittens and customer service is an oxymoron, one podcast has set out to make things right. This is the UnPodcast with your hosts, Scott Stratten and Allison Kramer.
Happy fall to everyone. I was reading somewhere that you should never address a podcast audience as multiple people or everyone, nor should you address it at the time of week or day or year it is. Because if you're listening at a different time, and in a podcast, they say you want to be feeling like you're the only listener.
But we all know we're not the only listener.
I
so
think
isn't it creepy?
We may be the only show with actually only a listener.
Oh, Jeff, how are you doing today? We're here on this day of the week in this beautiful season.
Hope you're having a good time of year.
Hope you're having a good time.
Whatever time that may be.
I think that's ridiculous. We have too much content today.
So
I looked
much.
through these articles. There's way too much to talk about.
Yeah, check it out today. We have a wonderful story about the world of Twitter and some baseball teams. We have women trying to get funding and how they unfortunately kind of fixed it. Fake reviews. It's our version of fake news, right? Fake reviews.
Yeah.
Somebody.
I have a spin studio terrorizing people.
Well, is there any other kind?
I know, as if the spin class wasn't terror enough.
Dad calling out a supermarket sign for being sexist, and what the supermarket did will shock you.
And Tesla being awesome, as Tesla does.
All that and nothing more.
And probably not even most of that stuff. So
No. Brought to you by Emma Jeff. Hope you're enjoying Jeff. Or if it's a female, Jeff-teen.
Are we really, Jeff-teen, are we really such egomaniacs that we think that a podcast was created just for us? Like, is that really a true piece of advice?
Oh, God, yeah. Of course. Like, somebody right now listening is probably running.
Okay.
And they're thinking they're talking to me.
But we are talking to them, but we're also talking to anyone else that's listening.
No. We're talking to the person driving to work right now.
Yeah, that's a problem.
That has to deal with Cheryl.
I've never watched a show or listened to a podcast and believed the person was talking just to me. I think that's a problem.
I think it's more of a feeling. It's not they only made it for me, but it's like you want to feel that intimacy. That I have to go to work, and in 25 minutes, Carol's going to be there. And damn it, Carol, she's going to make fish for lunch in the microwave.
Yeah.
It's going to reek. And then I have to hear her clack her teeth.
But at least Scott and Allison recorded that podcast just for me.
It makes me feel good that we can play off the suffering of others before I get into work and suffer myself.
I don't know.
Or not. Whatever. Hey, everybody.
We're not going to listen to the advice anyway, so.
On with the show.
Okay.
By the way, coming up in a few months' time, we'll have our 200th episode. Somebody said they wanted to come, and is that okay to bring himself and his daughter? And I looked at it. He lives in San Francisco.
Is he going to fly here?
Would you like
no,
to
he
come?
said his family was in Toronto.
He has family in Toronto. They can come. I'm like, so there you go. So there's 2 tickets down. 98 to go. So this is from the Tweezers. This is a nice, good story to start off your day before you have to go see Carol. And this is about Haley Dawson, who wants to throw out the first pitch at every Major League ballpark. And here's the story of why. This is from NPR.org. Haley Dawson throws out the opening pitch. Haley Dawson's favorite thing to do is throw out the first pitch at a baseball game. And thanks to a majority of all the MLB teams, she's going to do quite a bit of that in the future. The first pitch, at the request of Haley's mother, Young, a group of researchers and students took on the challenge to create a 3D printed prosthetic hand for Haley as a result of being born with Poland syndrome, which leaves a pectoral muscle and other parts of the affected side underdeveloped. Haley was born with a right palm, but not all her fingers on that right hand. The prosthetic hand the university created allows her to grasp objects like a baseball. In 2015, Young told the Mid-Atlantic Sports Network that after throwing out the first pitch for the Rebels team, Haley, which is the Las Vegas team, Haley said she wanted to throw out the first pitch for the Orioles, the family's favorite team. Quote, she just loves throwing the ball out, and when she did it for the UNLV, it was amazing, and she just hammed it up big time. Young said she was unsure of how to make her daughter's wish happen, but then decided to send a letter with a request. It worked, and on August 17, 2015, Haley threw the first pitch for the Orioles game to her favorite player, Manny Machado. Quote, for her to be able to have a hand to actually hold something where in the past she's never been able to is amazing. Young told MASN that the entire family enjoyed watching the UNLV team create the hand for Haley. Haley's pitching didn't stop in Baltimore. She went on to throw the first pitch for the Washington Nationals game this June after meeting Bryce Harper in Las Vegas and asking him if he could arrange for her to visit the park in Washington. After she showed her pitching skills at the Nationals game, Bleacher Report produced a video about Haley's story that got the attention of even more teams. Haley's goal is to throw out the first pitch for all 30 Major League teams, and as of Friday afternoon, Young says 24 more teams have responded on Twitter saying they'd love to have Haley come for a game. In total, Haley has 7 different hands, including the custom ones she's worn to the Orioles and Nationals games where she got to hang out with some of her favorite players, whom she now refers to as her buddies. She likes to get her hands signed, so now every time she gets a new hand, she likes to get it signed by someone. While Haley is having a good time meeting some of her favorite players, Young said she's glad this is also raising awareness for Poland syndrome and how accessible and affordable it is to get a 3D printed prosthetic. The robot hand has also been a confidence boost for Haley, who was once shy. It was initially a functional thing for her to be able to ride a bike and for safety issues, but it eventually became a social confidence thing, Young says, because when she puts it on, everybody wants to see it, everybody wants to touch it, and everybody wants to be around her. Because school just started and baseball season's closing out, Young says the family will probably wait until next season to start visiting a lot of teams, but they can make an exception, say, for a World Series game. So we have a picture too up on our screen here, and it shows there was a tweet that at Nat Squid sent out, who's I think one of the players actually. He sent a tweet out that said 7-year-old Haley's looking to do it. Pitch for more teams, and then all the major league teams start tweeting back saying
really
we'd
cool.
love to have you as well. That's a nice way to start off the day.
I love that picture of her. She has a great tough face picture with her hand. I wish we had a team so we could have Haley throw a ball.
It's one of the favorite things about that technology. And 3D printing the industry has kind of gone, it hasn't penetrated in the consumer market that they are hoping.
Yeah.
Remember when we were at CES a few years ago, Martha Stewart had her own filament, in their own colors in there. And it certainly hasn't gotten to that consumer point, but the advances they've made, and this is the world I love about it. We're seeing 3D printed houses, we're seeing all these and parts for everything you can imagine. But this is my favorite: the medical and the prosthetic side of things for 3D printed technology is killer. I love it. It makes
it really accessible to people and affordable.
All right, hey,
good job, Haley.
You can come, and Haley, you can come pitch to the softball league I run. At any time, over 30 men.
Haley, they don't deserve you.
Softball.
They don't deserve you.
We could actually use you as a
I was going to say
pitcher.
she might be a better pitcher.
Yeah, anytime.
I have an article from fastcompany.com. It says, these women entrepreneurs created a fake male co-founder to dodge startup sexism. So Penelope Gazin and Kate Dwyer started an online marketplace for weird art. And it says in the article they didn't expect it to be easy. They were LA-based artists, and they were bootstrapping the project with a few $1,000s of their own money, minimal tech skills. But it wasn't the tight budget that caused the problem. They also said that they faced their share of doubt from outsiders. And so they were trying to prove to people, you should fund us. And then the kind of the doubt from people, which, I mean, is pretty common for a startup, but the doubt from people spanned, they said, from condescending to outright sexist. So they were just getting started and getting a lot of questions. Are you sure? Is this a good idea? All these things. And to be honest, when I started reading this story, I'm like, yeah, like you're asking for people's money. You're going to have to prove it. And so, but they had some success. So in the first year, Witchsea, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Witchsea.
Sure.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
Had sold about $200,000 worth of art and paid creators 80% of each transaction by managing and they managed to turn a small profit, but they were still seeing the sexism. So they decided to do something creative, which I like, actually. They decided to add a third founder, who obviously did not exist, and the third founder's name was Keith. And they said that what they found was that when investors and other people would interact with Keith, they would be very polite. They would speak to him by name. They didn't ask him the same kind of questions, even though Keith was not a real person, just because he was a male founder that they'd created. And then they found the same people who would speak to Keith respectfully whenever they would speak to either of the women, wouldn't use their real names when they were addressing them, and would be condescending. And so what do you think about this? Because we've had things like these happen a couple times, right? We had a workplace, right, where someone was getting emails and then they started not putting their gender in the emails and getting a hugely different response.
Switching genders, yeah.
Yeah, or switching gender in the email. It's kind of a nice thing about being virtual in your communications. But I mean, should we have to create fake male founders to get proper treatment?
Whole industry, the whole world of venture capital and investment, and it just every week there's a story now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every week it's almost like the Uber brand of investing. Like it's every week you just hear about something horrible. It's money and power and influence, and it I don't know if it attracts the worst people or makes people worse. It's seriously, every week there's been something about female founders of companies having to not just work harder. It's not even about working harder. It's about dealing with all this stuff and just not stopping and just saying, this is what I have to deal with. Yet, we sit there as a white male and say, well, you have to do this, just do this, or just have a good company. And it's not even about that anymore. It's not about having a good idea or a good company. It's about having something between my legs so I can get it even heard in the first place. That a pretend me can get answers and funding better than a real woman who's been creating things.
It says the imaginary startup entrepreneur Keith Mann, props for giving him the last name, Mann.
He sounds like a straight shooter.
Will come as little surprise to many women who've worked in tech, not to mention other industries, or anyone who's been keeping up with the news out of Silicon Valley lately. High-profile cases of sexual harassment in the VC world and the controversy over an ex-Google employee's anti-diversity manifesto are just two of the most recent notable storylines in the media. Earlier this year, the story of how a pair of male and female colleagues switched email signatures and experienced radically different encounters when dealing with higher-ups and clients went viral. That's just what we talked about a few weeks ago. Evidently, email-based sexism in the workplace is something that resonates with more than a handful of people. And so it says that Gazen and Dwyer have retired Keith for now, but concede they can see a role for him in the future at the startup.
I'm surprised they just don't CC him in every email.
Yeah.
I can't. Just stop.
It's a good lesson, though. I think any of us,
but here's
any of us, because some of the people may... I think the lesson of things like this is to check yourself, and that when you're communicating with someone in whatever way you are, but especially in email, because you have a chance in email to change what you're going to say. Like when you're on the phone or talking in person, things can come out before you have a chance to think of them. But there's no excuse in email. You can reread that stuff. So check your emails and make sure that you're not someone who's doing this either because you're obviously a jerk or because it's not intentional or it's what you're used to or whatever. Make sure that you're communicating the same way with respect to both women and men.
I think there's a first step of all of this, which is admitting that we all have bias.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of its rampant racism all down to the most minute stereotyping in our brain.
Yeah, and instead of being defensive, just take this. If you hear this story, take it as an opportunity to reread your stuff and make sure that you're not.
And I find this interesting where it's name identifiable stereotyping. So it's not usually ageism, let's say, unless your name is, pick a new name.
Because you can tell if it's a man or a woman in the email.
So this happened, and I think we might even talked about it, but we've certainly seen the research too in this and the case studies of people changing their name on their resume to sound less foreign. Mm-hmm. Or to sound less of certain religious backgrounds. Mm-hmm. But this goes all the way back to forever.
Oh, yeah.
But people who were Jewish were changing their name. And then in
famous
Hollywood,
they're changing
authors
that are women, write under men's pseudonyms.
Like that. So there's certainly not a new thing.
No.
But it's also sad to see it's still the same thing.
Absolutely.
And these people hold the keys to the vault for them to have their dream go to that next level.
And but investors are missing out as well, because these could be fantastic entrepreneurs with a great idea that you could be making money from, and instead your bias is shaping your choices, and you're possibly missing out on a great opportunity to invest in a good company.
And I would totally admit, when I get a LinkedIn invite from people, I used to just say, well, it was based on their title originally was I would bias against. So if they were business development people, I'd be like, well, they're trying to sell something. And that's more from my bias of experience. But even you looking at the photo, my brain kicks in and said, well, should I? Or do they look professional? Will they help my network? Like it's total BS. But to realize, to start reducing bias, we have to realize that we are the ones with it.
Absolutely.
With nobody
To own
immune
it.
to that, and that's how it works. You know who I'm biased for, though, is a young lady named Emma.
I don't know how young Emma is. I think she's been around the block a couple times.
We're already doing age bias with Emma, and she's a logo with no chin. Go to myemma.com/unpodcast for all the content and exclusive things we've made for you. Check them out for your email marketing needs, because we've checked them out and they pay us. On with the show. So I find this neato
I saw this is cool.
place. It's called Fake Spot.
Okay.
And what Fake Spot does is their whole thing at the top is like tired of fake reviews. At the top, you can paste any Amazon, Yelp, or Apple review product or page, and it'll analyze all the reviews and see. They have all these different algorithms to show what potentially has a lot of fake reviews. Do we trust reviews? And so they've reviewed over 712 million Amazon reviews, almost 5 million Yelp ones, and 83,000 Apple App Stores. So they're at about, so they're gonna get to 1 billion eventually of these reviews done. So, and they have a plugin for your browsers. They have an app you can have on your phone.
Cool.
So I decided, let's test this out.
Okay.
And we reviewed a book called Unmarketing. Everything has changed and nothing is different.
I hear it's terrible.
And so we ran the reviews. It has 150 reviews on it.
Okay.
And so...
And how many of those did we write?
Yeah, that's an amazing thing, right? So we actually never solicited reviews ever for any of our books, which is fascinating. So on a grade from A through, well, F, I guess.
Yeah.
What
How
grade?
did we do?
What grade did we get? Wayne, what grade do you think we got on this? The number of reviews that are fake versus real. How
E for effort.
E for effort? Thanks,
E for
buddy.
effort.
What do you think we're at? A? Yeah, we got an F.
Why?
We failed. 60% of our reviews are low quality reviews.
What does that mean?
They said. So they said there's indications of a lot of unreliable and low quality reviews. So our actual Amazon rating is 4.5 stars.
Yeah.
The adjusted trustworthy, they call it, adjusted rating is 1.5 stars.
Oh gosh, that's terrible. Why did you say that on the podcast? What's wrong with you?
Wait, we got to run it. So look, what? So it's the analysis overview says our engine has analyzed and discovered that 40% of the reviews are reliable. Here's an interesting tidbit. They said the most used word by reviewers is book.
Well, it's a book.
How many are reviewers describing this item? Social, great, and many.
I didn't need a plug-in for that.
Our engine has profiled the reviewer patterns and has determined that there is high deception involved.
What does that mean?
So what it means is, so it starts looking at it and says,
We didn't buy
it shows you
reviews.
examples of unreliable reviewer. And the first one here, this person is overwhelming amount of positive reviews. Language utilizes many superlatives or suspiciously positive.
But maybe they only review books they like.
A correlation with other fake reviewers' profile data and language, and a large number of reviews created on the same date. Next one. So a lot of
Poor
it's overwhelming.
person just logged in and liked a lot of books.
Nobody is this happy. That's what it's saying. Just too many good reviews. And I understand a place for this. Just not for our book, but I understand a place for it because of what happens when people release books, including Unbranding, which is coming out in October, next month.
Go review it.
Order it now and review it with a lot of superlatives.
Superlatives.
So what happens is, if for those of you who are not authors, who've never been sucked into the author hype machine, what happens is a lot of authors will put something out there and say, hey, give us good reviews and we'll give you something, or give us good reviews in hopes that you will give me a good review down the road. You know what I mean? We flip. And then, you give out testimonials when you've never read a book. I haven't said I've ever done that 7 times. But so the issue is how do you get rid of those non fake reviews and see real ones? So there's your issue. I'm not understanding how the heck we got
I don't know either. We didn't buy any of those.
Oh, we could have. Fiverr loves us.
I don't
If we're
know
going to get a bad
why
rating, why
have
don't we
to
buy
talk-
them? We should just get 500 of them then if we're going to get a bad rating. I want to get some kind of something out of it.
We didn't buy any reviews.
I bought
The
one.
book is great.
I bought one of them. I gave my mom $5. She still gave us 3 stars.
I know.
She says, I'm not living up to my potential.
Speaking of reviews, so it says this spin studio is terrorizing anyone who gives them a negative Yelp review. If you're looking to strap into an exercise bike and get yelled at by an instructor for 45 minutes straight, because who isn't, there's no shortage of spinning studios in New York City where you can find what you're looking for. SoulCycle, Flywheel, Peloton's a start. For a while, there was even an IMAX spin studio in Dumbo. I don't know what Dumbo is, but apparently it's in all caps. But it's since closed down and been replaced with a new establishment called Rhythm Ride. Ride with a Y. It says the studio bills itself as an all-encompassing community that offers several avenues for community, fitness, and mind-body synergy so that you can lose yourself and be able to center your mind in order to take on the outside world. But as the tipster pointed out, who gave this article to thecut.com, there's something curious going on with Rhythm Ride, beyond the fact that they spell it with a Y. For this, we turn to their Yelp page, the crowdsourced review site that's always serves as a reliable breeding ground for drama, where a tipster says they've been terrorizing anyone who leaves a negative review. So, for instance, a Yelp user named Christina L., who left them a 1-star review on July 25th. In it, she said she's a frequent spinner and was disappointed by what she found was a late-running and disorganized experience. On July 30th, she posted a screen grab of what she says is a private message from Rhythm Ride addressed to Mrs. Supposedly Frequent Spinner, in which the company decided to review her. Some of their notes included, quote, "You were not on beat, nor the correct foot. Let's not begin on your form. You seem to be used to not working out correctly, and I can assure you, you are not a frequent spinner." They also replied to her publicly the following day with a slightly softer comment that read in part, maybe a little less disparaging to someone that offers you a free class, because the class had been free. So, what do you think about this, Scott? Other than that, I mean, isn't taking a spin class terror enough?
That's what I mean. What spin class is not terrorizing? I found it interesting, actually. The owner came out and had said, so they reached out to the head of it, Joseph Foley, the co-founder, replied to confirm he's the one leaving the comments. I'm going to find where he says it. So she says, it all came down to the first review stating she has one job. I was shocked not by the comment of the class starting late, but more so by the entitled mentality of this person who doesn't realize that there is more to a person than that 2-minute exchange. Not only is that extremely crude, it's, in my opinion, it was rude and disrespectful, regardless if it's my company. The reviewer then proceeded to degrade everything but the actual class. I have been called pompous, a douchebag, apparently Yelp took that review down, shameful, a bully, etc. in these reviews, when all we have done is self-fund a project and teach something that can and will compete against the 700-pound gorilla in the industry, SoulCycle. Yet I'm the bully here. In an industry that is extremely saturated, we still don't believe that we need to please everyone, so after their first review, we found it comical about us being the bully when each review thereafter started attacking, degrading, or insulting the company, as well as myself and my partner, with the majority never taking a class. As it continued, we saw that our society and culture and the idea that the customer is always right is not always accurate nor correct. I think it's the same thing. The internet allows for everyone to have an opinion, which is fine, and Yelp brings that platform, but those opinions are one-sided. Why is that fair? Life is not one-sided. It's a very narrow way of looking at things. The mentality to insult and criticize someone without a counter-argument is pretty arrogant and juvenile in a public forum, shaming an individual company and its employees. To sit there and take it on the chin without responding is not what we're about. We're about carrying yourself in a dignified manner and standing up for yourself and what you believe in because you deserve that empowerment and it not to be belittled. At the end of the day, I responded to the reviews, yes, but in all the negative reviews, no one actually complained about the class, who actually took it. There was no actual evidence. I did research on the reviewers prior to responding, such as the first reviewer, and they were all flawed. She said that she was a frequent spinner, yet only started spinning in May at another company, which was in her reviews. Starting to spin in May of this year should not make you an expert in this field, so basically we just called out people on their BS. So his statement, as a standalone statement,
seems reasonable to me.
Is very reasonable.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it. However, it's greatly contradictive
to what you actually see when you go and what they actually wrote to people on Yelp.
Right. So this is a whole, we're not sorry, we're sorry it's public.
Well, no, and I think also like the comments they gave back to people were like reactionary in the moment. Right. And this is someone then like, okay, I'm going to release a statement and taking time to like write something proper and and think about it. I think the issue that I have is twofold. One, the entitlement, the people feel entitled because they even if it's free, let's just say it's free, you're giving away the free classes because you're trying to get people to come in and take a class. So aside from the fact that it's free, they're coming in to take the class, and even by giving it away for free, you're kind of enticing them into the environment in the hopes that they're going to like it and then give you money. So they are entitled to a good experience. They're exchanging. They're your customer. They're entitled to the best possible experience they can get.
And they gave a customer review.
Absolutely. And I like when companies stand up for their employees, and I like when they stand for something. I think that's great. But the reactionary abuse of the customer, and especially the private message, I would almost rather if they'd done it in public, because then they at least have to stand. They have to stand with it. To kind of nitpick at somebody privately is inappropriate. And if you didn't want that person as a customer, which obviously you did, then they wouldn't be there. You went after them with a free class to get them into your studio. So you wanted them to be there.
And my issue is when people start reviewing a place to gang up on them and they've never used it. Yeah. Reviews are customer based, and that's the end of that sentence. It's just what it should be. Right? And we should analyze it. And we actually should have went for that.
Yeah, instead of the books, maybe.
But here's the thing: the company owners also it was actually contradictory for him too, because they actually have the ability to reply publicly. Yeah, and it's just like even the App Store now for Apple allows the developer to reply publicly, and that's good. Like that's okay. And so, what can you do if you're listening right now in your business and you got a bad review or some bad reviews? In the past 2 weeks, actually, twice we've been messaged by somebody saying somebody reviewed our business and said it was great, but they gave it 1 star. It was like a mistake or something. Okay. So you can reach out and say something to them and just reply to them in a kind manner. But what else can you do if you think it was? If you keep getting bad reviews, I mean, then you have a bad business.
It's probably not a mistake.
Yeah, it's not you don't have a Yelp problem, right? You have a business problem. But if it was one, and it was just you can see and they're exaggerating or they're doing this or whatever. What you want to do is kill the review, kill the site with kindness, with more reviews, with good reviews. And there's ways to encourage your current customers and clients to do that, right? Saying, like, hey, a couple of things. One, you can rally the troops and say, look, somebody's got a vendetta against us. We don't want you to attack this person. Could you please let the world know how you feel about us?
Yeah, that's the best way.
Right? Or to simply saying, hey, we'd love your review, and give them an incentive to do that. And sometimes that, if you have a good community connection, just saying, hey, we could really use your reviews over here, that would be awesome. And as long as they're honest, as long as they're not incentivized to give good ones, then that's the best way to do it. And then kind of the proofs and sometimes your business isn't as good as you think. Sometimes it just isn't.
Or there's a real issue there that you need to look at, and you need to handle that person.
And it's not 5 stars. And that's the problem. When we've talked about this in the past, sometimes you don't have an exemplary experience. It was fine. Yeah. I went in, I rode a bike, I left. Like it was like if everything is 5 stars in this world, what is actually excellent? But the problem is the system penalizes us for anything under 5 stars or anything under 10 out of 10. We talked in the past about reviews from car dealerships, and if they don't get anything over an 8, it's 0. Yeah. Right? So we have no
And I think sometimes the most helpful reviews are not the 5 out of 5 ones. They're the ones that give you real feedback. Right. And even as somebody looking at reviews to make choices, like on the consumer side, sometimes seeing that somebody says, like, the gym was great, except they didn't have classes first thing in the morning when I wanted to take classes, but the afternoon classes were great. And to that individual, maybe that's 3 stars. But if you're somebody who wants to take classes in the afternoon, that's the place you're looking for. So I don't think it's the place for personal attacks. Yeah. I think it's the place for feedback about the experience or the product. And if we could just stick to that, it would be beautiful. So
Bingo.
That's what I think.
All right. So much content today.
I know, and I don't even know how long we've been talking because you didn't put the timer thingy on.
Yeah, we're at a half hour almost now.
Wow. Well, let's do this one more.
All right.
And then we can do our other things.
From the HuffPo, from Huffington Post.
That's how the cool kids say it.
Yeah, we know them. We know Huff. We don't. So dad calls out supermarket sexist sign and gets an awesome response. So a Canadian dad, attaboy, used Twitter to make a small but meaningful change for parents today. On Monday, Justin Simard tweeted a photo of himself and his 9-month-old son in the parking lot of a Sobeys supermarket in Stratford, Prince Edward Island. The photo shows the duo next to a sign designating the parking spot for expecting mothers and mothers with small children. Addressing the company's Twitter account, the dad tweeted, "Crap, am I allowed to park here? Hashtag not a babysitter, hashtag dad issues." Simard told HuffPost when he first saw the sign, he simply thought, oh, good, a place to park that isn't too far from the door while I'm with my son. But after he parked there, he had to change in perspective. When I went to get out of my car, the person in the spot next to me gave me a dirty look, which quickly vanished when I took my son out of his car seat, Simard explained. Then the wording of the sign bothered me. What about single fathers? What about same-sex couples? It occurred to me that the sign could be more inclusive. Dad and blogger Aaron Gouvier retweeted Simmer, noting this kind of crap obviously isn't the most egregious wrong in the world, but it's still stupid and unnecessary. Just make it parents. Indeed, several brands have made updates over the years the way they refer to parents. In 2015, Amazon changed the name of its Amazon Mom program to Amazon Family. 2014, the Today Mom's website was rebranded as Today Parents. Simmer was happy to see a response from the Sobeys Twitter account. Quote, "You are definitely entitled to that parking spot, Justin. Which location was this so we can upgrade the signage?" He says, "I was blown away. The reply was almost immediate and had exactly the tone I'd hoped to find on social media. That is to say, I felt like a human being being answered by a human being who could see my point of view." A representative for Sobeys told HuffPo the company is currently looking into the issue and the possibility of updating its parking lot signage beyond the Stratford location. All expectant mothers and parents of small children are welcome to park in the expectant parents' parking spots in all our Sobeys stores, said the rep. We will continue to look at this in the future and thank the customer for bringing it to our attention. Well done, Sobeys. Well done. All right.
Would you like a made-up word?
I think so.
Don't make any sense. Don't mean no offense. It brings laziness. What is all this craziness?
Every week we would bring a made-up word from you to us, and then we give back to you. We call it a give back-a-roo.
One person that's listening.
Send us your made-up word on the tweezers, on the book faces, whatever way you want, through the contact form on unmarketing.com. Also, manbunsaresexy.com is also our sister site. It's not. I don't know what the domain leads to. Use it at your own peril. I don't know what happens when you go there. So if we pick your word, you can have any copy of our book. Let us know which one you want. We'll ship it right out to you, including the new on branding, 100 Branding Lessons in the Age of Disruption, which is due out next month. Great thing about this, when we use a word, I've had people get angry now.
Why?
They're like, I submitted that word. And I'm like, well, not first. And they're like, what?
We're going to need an app, like a proper place.
We need a list, because I have no idea which ones we've had submitted so far. So this week's made-up word is brought to us by Eric Fisher, longtime listener of the show. His word is Nepotisnt. Nepotisnt.
Who's going to guess?
Wayne.
I guess fair hiring practices.
Fair. He said Wayne says fair hiring practices. All right, Adam.
Anyone else?
Beforehand, so I know.
Oh, he cheated.
Not quite family. So the definition is giving out less than equal opportunity for fear of perceived nepotism. So reverse biasing it and actually not hiring family at all. Huh. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Very. Let's should we do a question?
Sure.
Yeah,
You want me to ask you
do a
it?
quick
I'll
question.
ask you the question.
Hang on, I think we got some music now.
We do. Familiar sounding music.
Oh. Question of the week with a little theme music backwood by Lotto Beats.
Where did that theme music come from, Mr.
Lotto,
Stratten?
our 16-year-old producer, made us that little beat. Thanks, my man. Let's do this.
All right. Question of the week. Do you consider social... Was that nepotism?
That was nepotism, yes. By the way, that was 100% nepotism.
Do you consider social media following numbers to be a direct measure of brand awareness?
No.
One sec, let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
It's a very well thought out question.
Yes.
Every year, we receive a brand tracking study that includes survey results on things like brand attributes, ad recall, etc. And one slide on YOY, social media following... That's a weird thing.
Year over year.
Year over year, social media following increases and decreases compared to competitors. Do you think this is an appropriate measure of brand awareness?
No.
Can you answer a little bit more? Because Emily Quintero left such a thoughtful question that I was so impressed with. So can you say more than no?
I've been told that I ramble on and I need to be brief sometimes.
And you're going to pick Emily's question as your time to be brief?
So one of the issues with this is, it's all encompassing in our world, that we see a number, and I always said that one of the Twitter's biggest downfalls to me is a public follower account, because it makes us want to increase it. That us having our own stats is fine, but having a public makes us saying we have to show the world how popular we are. And in this world of, I think next week's episode we'll be talking about it as well, or upcoming soon, is what is the cost and the worth and the value of buying followers?
Okay.
Because there is actually a viewed worth of them.
Yeah.
This goes back to clout scores with a K, and that whole cred scores also with a K, that they say this is your influence. And influences to me is never done en masse, meaning it's not the mass of people ever. It's that whole, quality over quantity, but it really is true when it comes to social following. It is not about numbers, because, by the way, 1 million is better than 100 if there's resonance, if it actually resonates,
and if they're real
it's
people.
relevant, and if they're real people, but it also that it does something, because we can see something, but unless it moves the needle, it means nothing. We'll be talking about this next week as well. Our friend Jay Bayer showed this study about how much engagement a tweet has, and it isn't even worth being on anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that. And so we're going to talk about that shortly. So I don't think that number means anything. You can come up with some great charts and comparisons comparing years of followers and with your competition, sure. I just don't think it means a lot. Because until we see that drive of action, until you can show me, and you can somewhat with what we have technology we have now, that Facebook fan, that Twitter follower led to this, which led to this, which led to purchase.
Yeah.
Or led to sign up, whatever your end goal is, whether you believe marketing creates interest and drives purchase interest, and then actually purchasing it, or do we have a cavern between those two and there's never a tracing amount?
The only thing I can see that is a little bit unique about this, if it's the year over year, then I think there's more value to seeing how those numbers change per year instead of just like the number. So to say like right now you have 1 million followers doesn't tell me a lot of information. But if I learn that over the last 5 years, every year you've grown exponentially sort of in order versus like in the third year something happened and that dropped. So then I think in some ways like watching the trend maybe gives you more information, at least more information than just the number. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Well, a benchmark would always help.
Yeah.
But again,
but still, you could have bought the followers, so it doesn't necessarily mean something's good.
If your brand has increased your Twitter followers by 10% every year, I'm waiting for the and.
Yeah, exactly.
What is it? Yeah. And what? And what has it done? Or has it just created more noise in your channel?
Yeah.
That's my issue. That's not a deep enough level of data.
Yeah, I agree.
For us, I think it's too surface. So.
Thank you, Emily, for your question.
Emily, the answer is no. I still hold true to that answer. No, it's not. From a social media obsessed person, no. So next week, be sure to come back because we are going to talk and read something from our man Jay Bayer about this, about is Twitter worthwhile to be at all, and some great stories from WestJet and Tesla doing a good deed and people still complaining about it.
You special one person, you.
Mm-hmm. Come back, everybody, but just you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and visit theunpodcast.com. And remember, friends don't let friends use QR codes.